All right. Welcome to the Tangle Collective, Lumberg. Good to have you on here today. Yeah, you have a pretty wicked background there too. That's
Thank you. Thanks for
yeah,
having me
pretty
on.
impressive. Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, I guess for some of the people that don't know you here, obviously you've been like an Ethereum OG and all this, NFT, DGen, early contributor at Cream Finance. You're now the co-founder of True Markets, prediction market on base, and Arbitrum delegate, and you've been on the council for like Pleaser DAO as well. So like a lot of yeah, you got a lot of things going on there. So yeah,
Thanks.
wonderful to be able to sit down with you here today and kind of go through a bunch of this stuff and see what's up here. So the in the background here, I'm seeing this is the
hmm
101 tower.
Yes. Yep. We're in Taipei right here, and
Yeah.
this one over here is like a Ritz Carlton. It's just coming up now, and this whole Xinyi district here is basically like I guess in Asia they like to call it CBD, the Central Business District. But basically, it's a downtown where everything happens.
Yeah, sick. So you guys
Yeah.
are right in the heart of it right now. So you're at the office, or
Yep.
where? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at the office. Yeah, we'll definitely have to cover the office, but certainly, relevant now is New Year's Eve's coming up. So this the fireworks here it just keeps they keep
Oh
stepping it
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's apparently named like CNN's top 10 destination for New Year's Eve.
So where do the fireworks happen? Like from the 101 tower? Like where are they?
It spews from the edge. It's incredible. You could definitely go on YouTube and look for footage of the stuff.
Yeah.
I think this past year, recently there's another fireworks for a holiday here, and they had drones and everything too. So they're really stepping up the game here. I think this year they supposedly brought in some Italian low smoke grade thing. There's a whole bunch of lore around this stuff. Taipei spent a lot of money on it, but it's definitely become a signature event here.
Yeah, wicked, wicked. Okay, obviously you're now in Taipei. You're working in Taipei. Got a killer office that's with a wicked view like that. I've been fortunate enough to be there a few times
Yeah,
now, so that's been
come
pretty
again
rad.
whenever.
Yeah, will do, will do. And then yeah, but like, where did your I guess for your early stages here, I'm trying to ask people like kind of what made things click for them with crypto or Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it was. How did they get what clicked for them that this stuff kind of made sense or that was your like aha moment? And just curious if you've got a moment like that.
Yeah, actually, the aha moment for me was around 2017. I was trying to, um, I was being protected by the jurisdiction I was in from entering a certain ICO. And I had a friend that was in a jurisdiction and that had some allocation, and so it was really incredible. I didn't know how it was my first time sending like a reasonably large size amount of ETH for me, and I was honestly scared. So I sent the money over on Ethereum, and like we did all the things, like email let's make sure the last digits are correct. I'm on the phone with the guy.
Yep.
We're on DM, like, oh, make sure it's this address. Don't, whatever. And when it went through, it was like, oh my God, it went through. And it was like, hooray. And, not that I was surprised by the ETH block time of like 12 to 15 seconds back then, but I was surprised by the fact that I was moving, like a decent amount of ETH, and that took like less than the time it takes to draft an email, and it was instantly finalized, and it was between you know from one side of the planet to the other side of the planet, and it cost less than the postage stamp. But that's when I thought this is going to change everything.
The fact that you literally used it, it was like, wait, I just sent value across the internet and it landed and it's there and it's verified. I can check on it and, being able to do that. That's amazing.
Well, just because earlier that week at work, I remember looking at things back in the day when people, I mean, not back then only, but now people still do it. Like we were FedExing a check between one office to another office. And it was like, okay, but you need this to get there like the day after or tomorrow, or okay, the fastest shipping option is next day and it's going to be like $150. And
Yeah.
so the
Wow.
next day I'm sending like more money across the planet, in less time and just a smaller fraction. That was amazing.
So what were you doing for work back then? Or what were you up to? And what was kind of like the transition into crypto? Like what were you doing before?
So I I think unlike a lot of people in crypto, I actually had a career in technology and through multiple places prior. And so I went to college in the Bay Area and I went to work in Silicon Valley. But it was around the time when the dot com boom happened. So I got a chance to live through the dot com
Mm.
boom, the beginning, the end, the irrational exuberance. But instead of going to these various startups that a lot of my friends did, I ended up taking a very conservative path and like taking a big company role. But it wasn't that conservative either. I went to Applied Materials, which is a supplier of semiconductor equipment. And
Mm.
back then, I had no idea just how special that was. And then I started realizing now, reflecting just before this call, how lucky I've been in my life of just like stepping through these various places at these pivotal times, right? So, for
Mm.
example, being at Applied Materials when the silicon wafer sizes were going from 200 millimeter to 300 millimeter. I was at Apple when Steve Jobs came back, and my friends were like, "Dude, don't go work there, man. That place is going under. It only has like 2.5% market share." And then
Yeah.
I went to business school. Yes, most people in crypto seem to drop out of things, and I have probably more education than most people want to admit in this space, but it was helpful for me. But in business school, I was the only guy in my class with a Mac laptop. Everybody else had Dells or IBMs or whatever.
Ah,
And then after that, I went to, well, I had a small stint in an internship at American Express in New York City.
yep.
That was fun, but it was really to test to see if I like technology that much. And it confirmed that to me, like credit card, while interesting, wasn't the thing that excites me. And then I went to
Yeah.
work at when I graduated at Belkin. So I did some accessories, and that's when I managed a gaming product that's now part of a Razer portfolio. But
Mm.
in that journey, I also met Brandon Beck, who was just talking about the idea of like the Dota modification that he was going to call League of Legends, and I participated in the
Mm.
beta, tried to do some joint marketing with them. So that was an incredible part of the journey. And then I went to work at a Chinese contract manufacturer, learned a lot about how things got put together on the hardware side, and
Mm.
then true to Bay Area form, made a bunch of really cool friends at Burning Man, and I moved in with those guys, and
Yeah.
then ended up one of the guys quit a big company, decided to start a cloud computing startup back in like 2012 or so.
Yeah.
And 2013, I joined that thing. And that brought me into like software QA with Amazon Web Services. We were a partner of Amazon Web Services. We were a part of their DevOps advanced competency partners. And that was pretty cool because it laid out a lot of foundation around understanding systems. And so it gave
Right.
me a lot of good technical kind of architectural understanding of how things fit together. So
And
even though I can't code, but I know enough about how things fit together that was very helpful to me within when I finally did join crypto. Yeah.
right, right. And so like with AWS back then, I'm sure it was a very different beast than like what we have today. I think about even maybe the UI hasn't improved as much. I mean, sometimes I look at the UI of Amazon and I'm like, what are we doing here? This is like running the world. And it's just like, but I guess maybe that's a different thing for developers have a different feel than
Yes.
that's a
Yeah, they
regular.
go through the command line. It doesn't really matter so much.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you're using all that, npm running, as I like to say, that's one of the very few things that I can do with code is npm run, and I can merge a PR here and there. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, it sounds like you had like quite a journey throughout tech and being able to see different sides of it too, and seeing like
Yep.
even different parts of the world too, not only just San Francisco, but like the Bay Area, but like to see all the way out into New York and doing those sorts of things. So yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah, what brought you back to Taiwan?
So I was actually born here, and then I moved to the U.S. when I was a kid, in search of the American dream. And yeah, ironically, I had to come back here in search of the American dreams because back then, during the Biden administration, we weren't really allowed to do crypto out there. So
Hmm.
what brought me back actually was because so at the time I was building Machi X, which is
Hmm.
a music copyright platform. So it was basically, in a way, kind of like music NFTs before NFTs became big. So this was 2018, 2019. And I was talking to, so it was with Machi, and at the time, Machi was, it was at some point, he kind of asked me, he's like, why are you spending all this time with lawyers? You should be building the thing. I'm like, yeah, but I need to make sure it's compliant. And then, it's like, yeah, but do the lawyers make it compliant? I'm like, no, they have this opinion letter, and like, what does that do? Like, does that keep you out of jail if you get get in trouble? Like, no, it doesn't. So why are you spending time there? Because I live in the U.S. at the time and I need to be compliant. So we're in these circles, and he's like, "Why don't you just move to Taiwan? Come back." And like, right, sure. So here I am. So at the time, I actually just had my wife and I just had our first kid, and it was hard moving a young family here at the time. But
Mm.
I definitely, looking back, it's like my sixth, seventh year here now. Definitely very much enjoy the move. Taipei is
Mhm.
awesome, as you've been here, and a lot of folks
Yeah.
that may be watching might know as well. It's super safe here, good for families, and definitely highly recommend it. And love being back here, man. The food's great, people are friendly.
Sometimes we're looking at Taiwan and we think of like Nvidia and like Jensen and those sorts of things. And I don't know, we're always like a fearful of China and whatnot, but like Taiwan to me seems like a pretty rad place. Everything's been pretty awesome there. Yeah, I don't know what any other like things that you can share with people about like what makes Taiwan sweet. Like yeah, it's
Yeah,
very, very safe. Yeah.
yeah, the crime stats are amazing. If you look up Taipei against whatever city you might be watching from, punch it in the chat GPT, see what you find out. I think it's pretty impressive. I think that the shortcut, someone said to me, one of the friends here that are working in the office building a separate project here, said to me that Taiwan is East Asia on easy mode. And I think there's a lot of truth to
Mm.
that, right?
Mm.
Because you think about like Singapore, Korea, Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Beijing. A lot of these cities are also metropolitan cities.
Hmm.
They are also heavy in perhaps engineering and or finance, but they're not as chill, So I guess
Yeah.
in some ways it can cut both ways. Some people think that life is too slow paced here, but honestly, I like that it can be fast paced in the office, and then when I leave, it's chill. And
It slows
also,
down.
cycling. I love cycling here. I This morning I went biking along the riverfront,
Hmm.
and just beautiful weather. On the riverfront trails, you can chain together hundreds of kilometers without sharing the road with any motorists. So no
Mm.
cars, no trucks, no buses, no motorcycles. So you just have to watch out for old grandmas walking their dogs. They could just pop out of nowhere and not look.
Yeah.
Oh, and the
Okay.
food's great. The food's great. Yeah, definitely. Love the
Yeah.
food.
Definitely have
Beautiful
some.
people, affordable cost of living, beaches, to the south that are like, it might be getting a little too deep into Taiwan here, but the Tropic of
Yeah.
Cancer
Hey.
actually crosses through the middle part, which means that we have, as such a small island, we have both the subtropic and tropic climate zones. So the northern beaches are rocky, so pretty good for scuba diving and looking at critters.
Right.
The southern beaches are sandy, similar to the beaches in the Philippines. And yeah, the native tribes here actually were at the top of the Austronesian zone. So we have the kind of the native folks here share a lot of genetic and linguistic roots all the way down to the Maori people, and maybe even
Mm.
the further down to the east and to the rest of Asia Pacific. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Cool. Yeah. It sounds like yeah. Well, glad people get a little further taste of Taiwan because yeah, I've been the few times I've been there, I've been like really stoked with it, and yeah, being able to even experience the office and what you guys have going on there too has been pretty great. So
Yeah. Did
um,
you ever try stinky tofu? I forget if I tried to have
yes,
you
I
eat the
did.
stinky
I did
tofu.
try the stinky tofu. That is like going through the markets and whatnot. Like that is one thing. When you go past it, it is so pungent. And I
Yes.
did try it a couple of times, I think, and it just wasn't quite for me. I wanted it because, like durian, for example,
Sorry.
like when you smell durian, it's
Yes.
just like that's a there's something very strong and pungent there, and a lot of people hate it. And it wasn't until I had good durian. Like I had some the first durian I think I had was in like Hong Kong, and I just about puked. It was disgusting. But the durian in Taiwan was like very good that I had, and I think probably the best was like in might have been like in Thailand somewhere. I think that was like some of the best durian I had. But
Hmm.
it's very strong flavor, very strong. But when you get good stuff, you can kind of I get it. I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of understand why people are going so crazy for this. But yeah, what a pungent thing the stinky tofu is.
The fruits, man. I'll have to tell you, as a kid, when I landed in California, which, really good fruits in California too.
Of
But I
course,
always wondered why, the mangoes and the pineapples and they don't taste the same. They're not as sweet.
right?
I wonder why they don't have like wax apples and all these other things that we have in Taiwan. And then now when I come back and as an adult, I realize, ah man, the this is like one of the best places on the planet for fruits. So that's the other thing we
Yeah.
should come here for, the fruits.
Yeah, fruits. Sick, sick. Yeah, it was one thing I found like, growing up in Canada, we didn't really have great access to fruit. So there was a lot of fruits that I wasn't a fan of as like, as I was growing up. And when I was younger and was traveling to Thailand, I think that's where I really fell in love with like pineapple. I'm like, this is a totally different thing. And so being over there in like those kind of climates with those fruits has been real amazing to
Yeah.
experience all those. You were kind of talking about some of the stuff you're doing with Machi X and the kind of the NFT side of things. I know that that's been a big arc for you as well. Yeah, what kind of so aside from the the Machi stuff with doing the I guess like the audio NFTs, where else did you end up afterwards? There was some other stuff you got into.
Actually, maybe winding it back a little bit, when I first got exposed to crypto before the aha moment even was because I had picked up Coinbase as a customer on our
Mm.
automated continuous integration software QA product. So that whole cloud compute thing was super interesting, and every customer we worked with, and we had a lot of really strong customers on the list like Airbnb,
Mhm.
Stripe, New Relic, Zendesk. But yeah, but like in that whole kind of class of mid 2000s, 2010s type of big Silicon Valley startups. But Coinbase was the most relevant, and every customer that we'd work with, I would just be curious and look at what they did. And I actually just like, oh, okay, Bitcoin. I remember hearing a guy talk about it, and early Bitcoin people, especially before 2014, were a little bit eccentric to say,
Mm.
and they're not the people you generally want to take advice from, it seems. But I remember one of the guys who worked for me mentioned it, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So, okay, well, these guys at Coinbase, they do Bitcoins. That's interesting. So I ended up buying some Bitcoins then, and then it
Mm.
was like 600 something. And I remember a few months later, it crashed to like 200 something. And I just thought, all right, you know what, just ignore it. But then it was very much 2017 when I got the email from Coinbase saying, hey, we added this new asset called Ethereum. That was
Mm.
interesting. And I thought, oh my God, I just think that web computing and Amazon Web Services is fascinating that you could, basically separate out compute bandwidth, storage, memory into separate small pieces and then compositively put them together. And I wish there was a way to kind of participate and invest in it that I could then maybe build on it, but then it was just AWS and or Azure, GCP, et
Mm.
cetera.
Mm.
So when Ethereum came out, I read about it. I'm like, oh man, like I wish I gotten this earlier. So I actually aped all of my Bitcoins into USD. And this is before I found out you could use GDAX. So I definitely lost like 2% slippage just here and there. But I just completely flipped in all my Bitcoin into ETH, every single one of them, and
Okay.
then proceeded in 2017 June to, on the advice of my Uber driver at the time, which is always bad, ape all the ETH into most of the ETH into Cryptopia from New Zealand on a bunch of basically shit coins. They were like meme coins, except they try to have some kind of value, which
Mhm.
don't know, better or worse, who knows. Yeah, so I lost most of my bag there, but I think everybody has a story like that. And then I got into the ICO cycle in 2017. And just as luck would have it, somehow I ended up meeting these folks at 500 Startups, and ended up meeting all a bunch of other crypto people. Started looking at all the ICOs, started breaking the stuff down. Did a little stint on ICO advisory, and that's actually how I met Machi. Was later on he saw on LinkedIn when I still had a LinkedIn account, like, hey man, you're working on this crypto thing, and hey, we should talk. And so we ended up talking about crypto stuff, and pretty much the rest of the arc with Machi, he's been definitely a big brother to me, mentor, strong partner, very supportive. Learned a lot from him. So yeah, Machi X was the first thing I worked together. Well, before that, I did advise in some of the Mythroll direction in terms of trying to take back the power for social media creators, and allow the creators and the fans to try to participate and earn some value out of this thing, which I think that still hasn't been cracked.
No, we haven't cracked that
So
yet.
yeah, I mean, there's been attempts, right? I think
Yep.
Pump.Fun has been interesting. The streaming on Pump.Fun's been interesting. But I think the problem still is that the content on Pump Fun, the content on Zora as well, unfortunately, isn't the type of content people want to pay for. I mean, recently when Hayden did the thing about Uniswap, that one post became one of the most valuable assets on Zora, which cool. But I don't think for even crypto people, even deep crypto nerds, think that in itself is that exciting. So I don't think we've cracked that creator economy problem, and there may be something coming in that might fix that. We'll see.
Yeah, as you kind of kept going into NFT stuff and like kind
Yes.
of had your touch with meme coins and all kind of these lower
Yes. So
altcoin
Machi
assets. Yep.
X.
Yep.
Machi X was super interesting. I think I'll share some learnings on that one. So the initial idea wasn't that hard, right? I was talking to Machi about like, hey man, so you're in this music industry, like, and back in 2017, I think this was like the early days of the internet where it was like, okay, we've got this tool, and it was one of those moments where you have a hammer and everything looks like a nail. So
Mm.
let's make, back then, let's say 2000 type of things people might still remember, pets.com. We should just make everything, like all pet shopping stuff should just be on a website, pets.com. That's why it should be worth billions of dollars. Like, I have eyeballs. It's great. Webvan, which funny enough now is a business across multiple sectors, just flopped and didn't work. But similar to that, right? We took the blockchain technology and we're like, how can we apply this to entertainment? How can we fractionalize music copyrights in a way that is useful for people? And I think the mistake there is that people don't pay for music copyrights. People don't collect, like, so they don't spend so much money collecting music things. People pay to enjoy the music, to listen to music, to stream the
Hmm.
music. They don't want to own the music. Like, there's no value in owning music. Just look at all the musicians. Like, if there was a lot of value in owning the music, the musicians wouldn't be so poor and working at Starbucks or whatever. So
Hmm.
so we took this idea that, look, if music copyright could be kind of like a cap table, if you will, and there's just could, for example, if you and I wrote a song and we went 50-50, there'd be like 50 tokens. And given how cheap Ethereum was back then and how low the GUI was, which now we're actually lower than back in 2017, but
That's true. That's true.
because of the scaling, it's a good thing because of the
Scaling. We
scaling.
are scaling. Yes.
Yeah, but it's like, look, we're back to it being cheap now. If we could just take 100 of those tokens and you get 50, I get 50, and then we could share them out. We can share them with fans. We could sell them. We can give them to relatives, and we both agree that that's what we want to do it. That is an improvement, because there's so many middlemen in this sector. And I know recently Coop Records is trying to fix this problem, and I really
Yeah.
hope they do well because I think this creators deserve to get paid. But I think the early lesson there for us was we tried to introduce an NFT-like collectible item in a bear market in 2019,
Hmm.
and we put way too much stuff in there, way too much utility. Yeah, because by owning this thing, maybe you can get a share of the revenue that comes out. And because I did look into the SEC rules on it, this is where we spent a bunch of lawyer money on, but that basically you music copyright transfers don't work like securities. That's the short answer. But
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
ultimately it didn't work, and then we ran out of money. I thought about re-raising, but the business model wasn't really proved out, and we spent too much money building the infrastructure and hiring people that aren't true blockchain enthusiasts. Maybe we can talk about hiring practices later, but there's an interesting thread
Sure.
there as
Yeah.
well. But and then I ended up kind of looking around. We laid off everybody. I was basically working for free, trying to make something happen. And then I ended up looking around at DAOs, and I was thinking in 2019 or the end of 2019, what could we do to pivot Machi X into a thing that perhaps the DAO model would work?
Yeah. Which DAOs were you kind of looking at first, or what caught your attention with which DAOs?
So I first read about Moloch DAO, and then I read
Hmm.
about Metacartel Ventures or Metacartel, and then Metacartel Ventures later. But this is my proud chili pepper.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, early ETH day relic. Thought it's appropriate to wear this today. So I ended up talking with Peter Pan, who's now at 1KX. Um, Very interesting to watch Peter's arc from this like degen, frankly, kid to now high-powered VC man. What's up, Peter? So yeah, so I talked with him about DAOs and I asked him how we could apply this. So we ended up pivoting Machi X into a DAO. Then I ended up digging deep into. I joined Metacartel. It was like 10 ETH back then. ETH was 300, so it was like $3,000, which wasn't nothing, but it was not 10 ETH now.
Well, it's like,
But
with one ETH. It's like, think of it now as like one ETH to
yeah,
join.
that's right. One ETH
With
to
Spirit Pod.
join. And it was great because Moloch DAO was going to fund like layer one stuff, and Metacartel Ventures was to fund like the app layer stuff. So we did a lot of
Mhm.
grants. That was cool. And then came Metacartel Ventures in 2020 and the Lao. So I was founding members at both Metacartel Ventures and the Lao. It was interesting just to do like DAO based investing. The thing I think that was a breakthrough there was like transparency, the automation, the fact that the GPs and the LPs don't have to fight. Like, hey, I'll see you in court. Like, no, just rage quit or guild kick somebody, and then pro rata get your share back, which kind of worked. But that model isn't so popular now. So if it really worked, maybe it'd still be around. So I've always believed in the DAO model. In that process, I also picked up way too much land and crypto voxels. So you can still
Ooh,
see the
crypto
Metacartel
voxels.
Ventures office building that we had built, and there's the Machi X gallery still there, crypto voxel. It was really awesome. I have a side theory, by the way, that crypto voxels is basically the metaverse equivalent of crypto punks. So when the metaverse starts heating up again, if and when that happens, I do think crypto voxels is where it's going to be.
Yeah, crypto voxels. That's like a pretty OG thing. It still exists. It's still around. Like people are still being able to like run into it and go into crypto voxels. I was in there maybe like I don't know a few months ago, just checking out if it's still alive and still if it's real. But yeah, you made an interesting point, like that it's like with punks, right? Like it's the punks of metaverse, and it kind of is because it's like the early days and like also very pixelated as well.
Yeah, so that okay. So I bought some digital art, and there was this. I remember there are a few like I mean there were a lot of really big early digital artists back then before they were called NFTs,
Hmm.
and like I did not get into crypto kitties. I do recall when basically ETH went down because of crypto kitties. And then yeah, Ethereum, yeah, crypto kitties took ETH down for a little bit. It wasn't down. I mean, yeah, it was just
Just
congested
unusable, basically. It
heavily
was just like so
because
throttled.
100% uptime, bro. Anyway, so yeah, crypto voxels, like that's where I ended up buying punks, and I started buying punks. It was like one one to 1.3, 1.4 ETH. I thought I was a genius because I sucked at like ever selling anything. So I'd buy them and then I'd list them at like 269 or something. And I'm like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, I just
Hmm.
doubled my money. I do have to bag on Machi for this one. He was like, man, these things are ugly. Why would anybody want this? Just sell them,
Ooh,
man. Just sell
yeah.
them. So I had like five or six punks. I held on to one, and I held on to one that looks most like me, which
Okay.
is not the best thing you do when you want collectibles. They become just normal. Nobody wants them. But
Yeah.
I remember Josie Bellini, one of the early crypto artists, crypto digital art artists. She had the Bitcoin thing with the mask, the gas mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, there was X Copy. I wish I bought some X
Yep.
Copy stuff earlier. This guy Trevor Jones with his like bull versus bear like art that moved around.
Hmm.
This guy Rob Ness that is still on Twitter right now. Like this dude like always types in caps. That's always his style, and it always seems like he's yelling, and then it seems like he's just kind of an eccentric artist guy, which is cool. Then I met a bunch of other like 3D artist guys, and so then I when I bought all this crypto art, I was like, well, what am I gonna do with this stuff? So, like have it on my screen as a screensaver? That's kind of crap. So when I got into crypto voxels, I'm like, oh, dude, no way! I can make my own gallery. I could put these tiles up. I could put my art there. It was awesome. And even later in DeFi, I was like, dude, what if you had actual like markets, like, oh, I'm going to deposit ETH, and you can have like a physical ATM thing in the crypto
Hmm.
voxel, and you click on the link and you could do your
Yeah.
transactions there. But that didn't go anywhere. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like it was amazing. I met all these crypto artists. Early days, they were just so into the art, the digital part of it, the kind of freedom that crypto afforded. Thinking back then, another thing that was interesting was 2017, 2018, 2019, it was about like, you know, banking the unbanked. It was almost a bit like this like fortune at the bottom of the pyramid stuff that I learned about in business school. And turns out now we're trying to like unbank the banked or neo bank the banked. I don't know,
Yeah.
which is an
Yeah.
interesting shift.
Yeah, it's so cool that you had like to experience all these like NFT artists back then too, because like those people, some of those are still notable. People will like remember them, and I mean they're still doing art and whatnot. But like to be early on, early
Yeah.
days, like that's really cool.
One guy that stood out to me, unfortunately, he's passed, but this guy, a lot of money. He had
Mm.
the bowler's hat with the double eyes, and he was like one of the OG guys who built the Metafactory office or whatever it is in Crypto Voxels. Was it no Metacartel office? I forget. He built one of the famous DAO offices and in the metaverse, and he did a bunch of cool art. But I think he passed away from cancer a few years ago.
Oh shoot.
Seemed like a really nice guy. But I think that's what's cool, right? So his work, as long as Crypto Voxel is still around, like remains and lives on in perpetuity unless Crypto Voxel goes away.
Yeah, these digital art, like this stuff can live forever. I mean, just like regular paintings, right? Like these paintings do exist in museums. They exist everywhere, right? They are more subject, like they're subject to physical damage as well. Whereas, like
Yes.
if something is on a persistent kind of network of some type, like you can't. These are going to live on forever as well in a digital form, and can't really be like changed.
That reminds me of a few things actually. Jimmy.eth. I don't know what happened to Jimmy. Kind of like also that guy Whale Shark. Oh, I think Whale Shark's still around. Jimmy launched Avastars, and I have my fair share of Avastars, early NFTs, right? Avastars fully on chain and everything before NFTs got big.
Yeah.
I thought that's pretty cool because that lives fully on chain, doesn't rely on IPFS and indexing and all that.
Yeah.
And then what you said earlier about digital art having its place in the museums, I definitely agree. So the other thing that I'm doing right now is the digital art movement, which is a
Right.
DAO funded by ApeCoin.
Hmm.
So we've collected a lot of notable digital art in digital art movement, and we're currently in discussions with several large museums about having some kind of digital art showcase, and
Hmm.
then so a lot of the Yugaverse stuff, as well as things that are have nothing to do with the Yugaverse stuff, is that they're all in the collection. And what we're trying to do is
Hmm.
make sure that we get digital art and place it in its rightful place within art history. I mean, I think to me, being an ape and to me, apes are the most prominent outside of crypto because I think crypto punks is huge and has more significance in crypto itself. I think
Hmm. Sure.
than
Sure.
BOIC, but I think apes outside of the crypto world, for people like Paris Hilton and Steph Curry and these guys having apes, I think that's a big deal. And I think when we look back, similar to how if you go to museums, the early days of human civilization that are most valuable are in fact the art pieces. So when we look back to, I imagine like 100, 200 years from now, people go, oh my God, yeah, the beginning of the internet. And then there was the beginning of the blockchain. And then, oh, what are the art pieces that exist back then? I think we will all go back and revalue these early pieces that exist both in crypto art history as well as mainstream history. And these things, well, that's why I'm still bullish NFTs.
So that's a really good point that like those periods of time in history to be able to look at those assets that were like you say just in general history, but like now this is a pivotal thing. Like blockchain is a like that started, Bitcoin being started in 2000, 2009. We've got we now as we move into like Ethereum and whatnot, like all this blockchain stuff is now in existence, and we have the art around it, just as you stated. So like that stuff is like these early things, these first pieces that were a part of it. Like that stuff is like, yeah, you've got to imagine it's got to be, you know, it's going in the history books, and it's definitely probably going to increase in value. You start looking at, all these different paintings in the Louvre and whatnot, and what people would be willing to pay for those sorts of things because of like, where the history is of all that. So, yeah,
Yeah,
very
that's
cool
also
artifact.
I think part of the Pleaser DAO journey, right? So Pleaser
Hmm.
DAO owning Ed Snowden's the Freedom of Press NFT. Definitely the Wu Tang album was arguably
Yeah, that's
one of the
true.
first collectibles, right? It's an
Yeah,
NFT in that it's a 101, right? You can't listen to that album unless you like own it there, and it's not allowed to be streamed. So some certain finance pharma bro got in trouble for that one.
yeah,
So um, yeah. So but besides
yeah.
that though, I also think that it's actually through dabbling in all these weird things that inform ourselves to what could be, right? When I remember when I first bought my crypto voxels, a few different things that happened there, right? Like it's like, wait a minute, so I have this address and I just paid, and there was a non-fungible representation of this address that I just traded via smart contract. Because I remember I made the mistake of buying a home right before the housing crashed in 2006, 2007, or 2007, 2008.
Hmm.
And I remember asking my agent, like, dude, what is an escrow fee? Why is it $10,000? What is a title insurance? Why is it $10,000? Why am I paying $20,000 in fees for these things? Like, can you help me understand? Like, what do you do? It's like, oh, well, we make sure that the title is clean. I'm like, yeah, like you're selling it to me. Shouldn't it be clean? Aren't you guaranteeing me that this thing is good and clean when you sell it to me? Like, no, because well, later on down the road, if you get in trouble, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, man. If something was happened before, that should be liability to the person who owned it before, not me. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, okay. And what about the escrow? Well, see, the title goes to a bank, and then your money goes to a bank, and then the bank makes sure that you get the title and the previous owner gets the money. I'm like, that cost $10,000. Why? And so when I transacted the crypto voxels land, it dawned on me that the future of real estate undoubtedly has to go in this way. It is no longer should it be some old lady with a dusty book in City Hall like that. That can't be. I know there's been plenty of attempts at that, and my personal prediction actually is that
Hmm.
I think that the first serious attempt at you know NFTing real estate might just happen on Mars, because I can't imagine Elon, shipping up like old ladies and dusty books and city halls to Mars. Like it has to be like on the blockchain, like one must lane, right? Should have like a NFT representation. And when you want to collateralize a certain apartment unit in there, when you want to buy a certain unit, these transactions undoubtedly has to go through DeFi, because it's transparent, it's automated, and way more efficient. So anyway, crypto voxels. Yeah, now I come to think of it, I think I lament how much money I dropped in crypto voxels, but come to think of it, it's definitely been like a lot of learnings.
It's interesting idea that you have around like you know, seeing this like happen on Mars, because we've already so gone far, like, too far gone here in the real world to like try and switch that over in a really fast or meaningful way. But be able to do that up in like in Mars. Oh, here's brand new land that like nobody has
Yes.
claimed ish. I guess I don't know. Maybe there's some other aliens or something that own the land. I have no idea. But yeah, to be able to like say, hey, we're going to use actual new technology for this, and this is all computable on blockchains, and we can send the blockchain can be sent through satellites and whatnot, and there it is. We can run nodes up there, and everybody can check in with it. So
I start
yeah.
wondering about finality and block time challenges when you start to
Hmm.
deal with light speed and physics. But I think I'll leave that until Vitalik.
Yeah, leave that. But I mean, hey, we got 13 seconds now. That's enough time, right? We could send things to and from the moon in 10 seconds, or on Mars 10 seconds. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. Yeah, yeah. That's math beyond me, dude.
Yeah, same. But yeah, and so then you talk a lot about the apes, right, and having like connection with that. What brought you into the Bored Ape community? What did you see about that got you engaged and involved?
So both Machi and I are in Pleaser DAO alongside a bunch of really cool people. If you look at the roster, it's really like the who's who of crypto from 2020, 2021. The founders of Aave Compound, Synthetics, Nansen AI, and a bunch of different projects you've heard of, VCs, et cetera, are in there. And back then it was super degen on an ultra bullish, cycle. And somebody dropped a link and said, "Hey, go mint this NFT." And at the time, this is like one of those regrets in life. Um, I was sleeping. Machi was calling me. It was like 2 a.m. He's like, Hurry, hurry, mint these things." And then I called him back at like 8 a.m., right? Which doesn't seem that unreasonable. I'm like, "Hey, man, well, what did you call me about?" He's like, 0.08 ETH was mint, but sorry, man, these apes are now going for point 0.2. I'm like, dude, that was like 6 hours ago. He's like, yeah, I know, but you should buy some. You should just buy some. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy these stupid monkey picks for like point 0.2 ETH. That's nuts. All right, just buy one or two. So I did. And then I looked at his portfolio. I'm like, man, I really like that crazy looking one. That one's way better than what I bought. He's like, okay, fine. And so he gifted me an ape. And
Mhm.
then he minted, I think, like 200 of them, maybe
Jeez,
more. Then he
wow.
started collecting them. And then he started giving them out, actually. So he gave me an ape, but he also gave apes to a bunch of people in Pleaser DAO. A lot of the DeFi OGs have them. So yeah. And then I've been just following the apes all the way through. Definitely been trying to be supportive of all the ape ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, I really think that that team is really special for having done what they've done. Garga, Gordon, obviously, and then the other folks on the team right now are doing some good things. I think that I am sad that the apes are poor. I am sad that there aren't enough apes on the timeline. I wish that really the apes could step up and be strong again. And I think we will, but we just need to take some work to get there. But yeah, definitely BOIC. My current ape as my PFP will basically
Mhm.
forever, I think, be my picture.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, thanks to Machi for gifting me that.
Yeah, sick. Well, and good that you were there early enough, and I mean, and then seeing all of the derivatives that came from it too, right? Because all of those, getting mutants and serum, well, the serums and the
Dogs,
mutants and the dogs and then everything all the way down to as we got the
other
what was it?
deeds,
Yeah, all
heavy
the
metal.
heavy metals and everything else, and even so just so many little derivatives that came out of that, and obviously it seems like it just it did taper off over time, but the fact that it like built this whole ecosystem, and it was like kind of one of the first places to do. I don't know, was anybody else doing derivatives before that? Like he was saying, hey, because you have this, here's like another, here's
I
a
don't think
new,
so.
yeah.
Not that I remember. I think those guys definitely innovated on that. And I
Hmm.
don't think the innovation's stopping, right? Recently, just today, I saw them drop like a zippered hoodie that seems pretty sweet. I might have to go buy that.
Yeah,
And then
nice.
other side, right? Like it's basically Web3 Roblox. Right? That's pretty amazing what they're doing. And
Hmm.
I'm aware of certain other initiatives that's going on that's going to make this entire ecosystem and make apes' lives better. And that
Yeah,
the kind of focus now, as far as I know, from the apes community in Yuga, is to make this thing really just you know lifestyle and mass market, right? So I think for a lot
yeah,
of crypto people, it's like, oh, I haven't really heard too much about them. When you look at something like Penguins going mainstream as well, I think that makes sense, and I think it's good for all NFTs to have Penguins go mainstream, for apes to go mainstream. Punks aren't as mainstream, I don't think. Although I guess if you look at like Sotheby auctions and things like that, then maybe it's kind of gone mainstream.
with the ape ecosystem, like this, the whole other side stuff, whatnot. Have you been inside? Have you played inside of other side? Have you been in there a couple of at all?
I have not actually. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of the clips on X, and they look pretty cool. I need
Hmm.
to enter the Nexus and be a good ape and check that out. I think just life in general, kind of getting a little busy. That's been challenging. I think I actually recently just got a PS5 and I bought the PlayStation Network, whatever the subscription is called, and there's so many fun games on there I want to do. I'm way behind on my games, and so generally, like, yeah, kind of wish I had more time for games.
The ape ecosystem has been, a big part of NFT lore, that's for sure, and yeah, very recognizable as well, and kind of worldwide in a lot of ways. I
Hmm.
feel, even being in Buenos Aires here for DevConnect just recently, seeing like there was bored apes on a couple of different buildings, just painted on the side,
Sweet.
just there, and yeah, like didn't see a whole bunch else of that like anywhere. Like I don't see any other NFTs doing that. So it's cool to see that like the apes are proud. I will give it that. Like they're
Yes.
proud to be an ape. They're very in it, and even just being at the Ape Fest that I have, like there's a very interesting culture there, and there is a whether it's a cult or a culture, however you want to look at it, regardless, it's like people that are they're excited about this, about what they're a part of. And it's almost like the number, like the people that are still around, anyways. They don't care about the value. It's about being in the club. It's about this club. It's
Yes.
the people who are here and they're still here, and the connections that they've made, and the people that they get to meet. And yes, you could say, well, there's other ways to do some connectivity, but there's something that just helps bring people together. And now, like even an Ape Fest ticket, for example, you have to have your NFT in your wallet, which you connect to token proof. And this is like real, actual, this is real verifiability, right? Like I have
Yes.
to prove that I have ownership of this, and now I'm allowed to enter. I'm able to enter the Ape Fest, right? And so it really just kind of shows you how like eventually this stuff happens for real clubs, like real country clubs and yacht clubs and golf clubs and whatnot. Like
Think so.
a lot of this stuff is, okay, we know who this person is, so we just let them in and it's no problem and whatnot. But like, what happens when things go global, right? And that's what we're dealing with here. We're not just dealing with like local, people that are just a part of a local country club or a, golf club. What happens when I have access to every single golf club in, or golf course in the world, right? Because it's a part of this one thing. And now I need some sort of verifiable membership to be able to do that. And sure, we can say, oh, well, we can just still do it with Web 2 Rails. But into the future here, if we're going to start seeing the way things are going with Web 3 and like with crypto in general, we may want to use this and be able to transfer it too, so like I can hold my membership and I can actually like sell it, instead of like, well, it's bound to me, but like I can sell this membership, and maybe it has to be to a verified pool of individuals who can be whitelisted or something like that, in order to curate properly. But there's definitely something that's pretty powerful when it gets to a global scale outside of
For
local, I
sure.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think membership clubs, right? Like you have, like here in Taipei, you have the American Club, and it's they have like cross membership sharing with some Caltech club and some other clubs. In the U.S., here in Taipei, in Tokyo, there's like an American club out there, and they have like some kind of membership agreement. I do think that all of those things should be NFTs, and I also think, yeah, this is where I think the application spans a lot. Like I could imagine even within the same jurisdiction, you have like if you have like Lakers tickets and you have a season Laker tickets. Like instead of going through Ticketmaster and being stuck on Live Nation and the rail, whatever they're called these days, but be stuck on the rails, and you could just have a season ticket NFT, and then each
Mhm.
ticket would be dropped as NFTs to your address. Now, if you sold your season ticket NFT or you moved it, then all the additional tickets would drop on those wallets. And then if you were
Right.
to sell your tickets, then you can own your separate game tickets and your seats, and you can send them to your friend, or you just list them on an NFT marketplace or a
Mhm.
marketplace venue of any kind. And so I think it's a matter of time until that happens, and it has to be. But I think another point about PFPs that's interesting. Um, Lumberg is me, but Lumberg is that ape. Like, I'm not,
Mhm.
I don't see a scenario in which I'm going to change my PFP because so
Mhm.
much of my history is connected to that PFP. And I think about how, like, if you look at LinkedIn pictures, um, the LinkedIn pictures, people, it's not uncommon. You look at somebody's LinkedIn or dating sites profiles or whatever. Like, dude, that is from like 5, 10 years ago, man. And you don't have
Mhm.
the problem with PFP because that's you. That's your digital identity. So it's not even like trying to be anonymous or anything. It's just that that picture is like your digital representation. And I
Right.
do think that PFPs definitely have their place. And Lumberg is always an ape, and Lumberg is me, and then Lumberg is that ape.
And where did Lumberg come from? Like when I first like met you and heard about it, I was like, wait a second, is this guy like an office space fella or what's going on here? So yeah, just would love
Yes,
to hear.
bingo, you nailed it. Yeah, I love the office space thing because, um, well, first of all, I was definitely nerding out on World of Warcraft, like many folks in Web3 crypto. I was watching Office Space when I was creating my troll mage character, and I was like, oh, Lumberg. But I misspelled it, I noticed in retrospect, because he has an H at the end, because there are funny names about Lumberg. If you're a fan of Office Space, you would know. And then later on, when I went to Web two and I was in cloud computing, I needed a handle for GitHub. I needed a handle for Heroku. I needed a handle for all these things. And then later on, I needed a handle for my .e. So Lumberg became the name and it stuck.
There it
But
is.
I think yeah, World of Warcraft. I missed the vanilla WoW days. I missed taking down Ragnaros after so many tries and the Ventrilo server blowing up with 40 people. Like, we finally did it. And also kind of lament the fact that my slash played time is measured in months, and so I think about just how much of my life has been sunk into World of Warcraft. But just like anything else, it's not really a waste of time if you had fun doing it and you learn a lot from it.
That's right. That's right. Oh, cool. So as we kind of tie together clubs and offices and whatnot, let's talk a little bit about what you've got going on here at the office. And I think like you're calling it the Ape Arc as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. The current name is the Ape Arc. I don't know if it would change it. There are definitely a lot of Bored Apes artifacts here. The number one prize for the Ape versus Mutants pinball machine is proudly on display here at the office.
Mm-hmm.
So at Ape Arc, you could see that one of one gigantic pinball machine. So we've actually had Yuka folks come here and go, "Oh my God, this is the thing! Oh my God, I almost forgot about it." We have other pieces of art in here. I have my Tom Sachs rockets here. I have a piece from Henny. The Damien Hirst piece is here. Currency, and so definitely it's kind of like an NFT office. We even have a WAGME sign in neon. It was a very
Yeah.
interesting idea that what we're trying to do here is um, we're, we're, we're creating a builder space
Mhm.
that frankly didn't exist in Taipei. Um, we just had lots of friends that go, "Oh, hey, Taipei's kind of cool. I want to come by. Oh, is there a place I can work?" So it started off as like, "Yeah, yeah, sure. Come to our office. We'll give you a desk." And then it became like a community, and it grew, and then kind of, and funny enough, it's called Ape Arc, and people seem to they do show up in pairs. Some of the guys from Baseline showed up here early days. Um, and some of the other folks came. I think there are also a lot of good projects we could be proud of that came out of here. Like Meta Street was being built here. David and his team. David was here, mainly David. USDAI now, right? So that's
Mhm.
related to haven't been here. Some of the other projects have been here. I don't know if they care about being named or not, but let's just say that there are a lot of projects you've heard of in DeFi and NFT space. A lot of
Yeah.
founders and builders and investors that are here. It's a permissioned crypto builder space. So
Mhm.
when you come here, we got a guy from one of the major AMMs here recently working, and it's been helpful. Like you're working on the thing, you're like, hey, I got this question about this AMM math. It's like, dude, go talk to that guy. I got this question about how to do some Uniswap V4 hooks. Go talk to the baseline guys. Oh yeah, and then there's this baseline value concept. How to market make on chain? Yeah, go talk to those guys. So it was very helpful, and we certainly hosted our share of of a few different Liquidity two forks that are being built out of this office, and
Mhm.
so I think I guess I could say I'm really proud of having this space to attract so many talented builders, investors, um, sometimes KOLs to come here and build things and to learn from them, to get to know them better on a visual basis, and to foster the community here. So we've also held Hyperliquid meetups here, so Hyperliquid Taiwan meetups being run out of its office, and we're talking to some other projects and chains that I think should also have some meetups here. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited. It's still evolving, and certainly if there are any kind of strong builders, people that are doing important things in the industry, feel free to hit me up. I'd love to host you here.
Yeah, the amazing space that you guys have, and like the fact that it's the physical space of being able to bring people together and actually be in the same room, and especially in this industry where it's so, like we were talking about it earlier, being very global, very, we're online, we're literally communicating with each other through, whether it's Telegram or on Discord or heaven forbid LinkedIn or Slack for that matter. Sorry, I shouldn't really shit talk that too much, but those
All
are ones that
good.
I don't generally stick around with too much, but regardless, this real world ability and for connecting and being able to connect with people is really powerful. And I'm glad that you guys are seeing it there and helping foster that, and just being able to be open to things, and curating. You still need to curate, because when you're in a physical space, like, there can be complications, right? Or there can be people who just aren't the right fit and are toxic to those environments. So it's good that you guys kind of have a little bit of a vetting system as well, because then you have other people that will come in and say, you know what, I know that I can work with good people here. I'm not worried about, some, I don't know, some whatever, somebody that's an
Randoms.
inappropriate.
It's definitely a very good thing to be able to kind of curate and have a strong group of people here. It's like the best part about going to a conference and talking to builders without having all the other garbage you don't like, the crowd, the travel, the parties you go to and feel empty afterwards. So yeah, so it is basically, it just should be distilled down to the best part about meeting builders in a conference setting without all the bad parts of a conference. I think that's really key.
Yeah, that's a cool way of putting it. Yeah, we do find that conference burnout can be, right. I don't know if burnout's the right word for it, but just like you're doing the same thing, repeating the same thing to like some random BD person that just like ran into you, is just like, oh, we're doing this thing. It's like, no, I don't care if you're doing this thing. This is so irrelevant, and I know what you're doing, and it can just be really annoying. And like you say, even like some of these parties you go to, you're like, well, okay, it's this project that I'm like curious about, or I'm involved. I
Yep.
know these people, or I should show up to this thing, and you're trying. It's just like loud music that no one is dancing to, and everybody's just yelling at each other in their ears, and some people are half in the bag and whatnot. So yeah, anyways, I've enjoyed my time and experiences at the office. I am very partial to physical spaces, especially with
Hmm.
here in Vancouver. We're not doing necessarily the the background of being up on the on the high floor overlooking 101. But have been helping out with Decentral or Decontrol here in Vancouver for many years, which unfortunately we just heard the sad news that March 31st will be our final day. We just got that news the other day. So
Oh no.
yeah, so we are going to be actively looking for a different space, probably coming above ground. Might take some inspiration from you guys. Get out of the basement. It's one of my hopes anyhow. But yeah, I've just been able to see, like, being around other builders, being around other like-minded individuals. That's really been a very powerful kind of experience for me. And again,
Yes.
especially when you're trying to find in such smaller groups, instead of like just the outside into the Normieville, right? It's very hard to find those kind of like minds in this massive world that is just, instead of trying to find it in this niche kind of group of individuals. And I guess that's like kind of why I like Burning Man a lot too, was the fact that, like, hey, we can find people that are like-minded, and we can be in this physical space, even if it is just temporary, right? And being able to
Yes.
meet people, and
Impermanence.
yeah, impermanence. That's true. Yeah. So when did you go to the burn? You were there. What year? When
Oh
was it?
man, I was there 2009, 2010, and 2012. So
Damn. Yeah.
I doubt that my old campmates are watching this, but definitely shout out to Camp Wanted. I had so much fun there because it was actually, it's funny. I have a brother who works in TradFi, and he's actually, I'm trying to feed him all the crypto things so we can start
Right.
implementing them more in these big TradFi places. But anyway, so he had lost his job with the financial crisis in 2008, and he was living in Asia, and I was in San Francisco at the time. So I basically told him, I'm like, hey, dude, look, just I know you got those miles. You don't have to pay anything. Just book the flight, land in San Francisco, crash in my apartment. I've got this thing all lined up, and just come out, come with me. And to actually back it in a little bit, how I ended up connecting and deciding to go to the Burn, I was at a show at Ruby Sky in San Francisco. It's actually well known for EDM artists and shows, which is why some burners don't like to go because it's too EDM-y for them.
Mm.
But at the time that weekend, it was like the stars that lined up in a way. Danny Tenaglia was the DJ, and he was playing at Ruby Sky. And the reason that Ruby Sky had him, I think, was because they needed a different segment to go after. Because I remember Paul Van Dyke and some other bigger act back then, like Armin van Buren or somebody like that back then. These are like old names, I guess. But these guys were playing in different parts of the Bay Area. So Danny Tenaglia was there, and I ended up um, going to that show and meeting the camp organizer at Camp Wanted, this guy Jason, really really cool dude who we had an interesting conversation. And one of the first things he asked me was, I was like, dude, you were on a Burning Man camp. Oh, hold on. Let's back it up. Or it's like, you go to Burning Man. Let's back it up. What does it mean? Like, I've been curious about
Mm.
Burning Man. I've heard about it. There's not much I can find, like, or I didn't really know anybody that's been. This was 2008, and he's like, well, I mean, you want to go? I'm like, yeah, I want to go. He goes, oh, would you mind like showing up for early setup and like maybe driving a moving truck? I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll do that. He's like, damn, all right, you're in. Half my camp won't even do that. Because we know that a lot of Burning Man camp and burners, as much as they're about the community, they also just are lazy. So,
Can
so
be.
by volunteering, and this is true for many things in life, and I think I've actually gotten into a lot of things this way. Like, hey man, I just want to learn about this. How about I just do shit for free and then
Hmm.
like let me learn. And actually, this is a good way for anybody listening trying to break into anything, like a field. So I ended up joining in the Burning Man. I did the early like setup thing, and I had so much fun. I remember that year I pulled up in the playa on a Sunday and or Friday. And it was Friday night that we got there. Saturday morning, I look on the playa and all these stakes on the ground, and we're putting up the tent, we're putting up the shade structure, we're like hammering these big old anchors, we're putting up the showers, we're putting up the evaporation, tanks or whatever they're called. And then across the desert, I see this gigantic like uh, rocket ship. Imagine like something you'd see with like Bugs Bunny, right? It's like it's got these like rounded bottoms and it's got this rounded top and it's got the circular window. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. And behind this desert landscape, it was just this, it's like, dude, you're on Mars or something, it's so awesome. And it's just that place never ceased to amaze me. And after my first burn, seeing the art, listening to the music and everything, and then also thinking to myself, like, I didn't even know. I didn't join Wanted because it was a music camp. I joined it because it was the only camp I knew anybody in. And turned out it was a DJ camp. And so we had diesel generators, we had like all kinds of crazy things. So I ended up saying, hey man, I want to learn how to DJ. And the true burner sense, like, all right, come on up here. Here, see these buttons right here, these DMX buttons. Yeah, just hit them and try to go with the music, right? Let me see how like in tune the music here. I'm like, all right, great. So I used to do some music in the marching band, so I kind of had some sense of music because I was playing with DMX buttons. And at one point, at one point, this is probably not so relevant for the podcast, but at one point, the guy was like, yo, take it easy on the strobe, man. You're going to give somebody a seizure. I'm like, all right, chill down on the strobe. But I learned how to DJ. That was cool in '09. And then 2010, I tried to go on stage, and this was pretty degen. These guys had the bright idea that if you're gonna go on stage and you're gonna go on the decks, you need to wear a shock collar, like a dog shock collar. And if you suck, we're gonna tell you to get off, but then we're gonna notify you is we're gonna shock you to get the fuck off. You suck. I Yeah. Anyway, yeah, maybe so much cussing in this podcast is not the best, but those are exactly the lines they said. So I'm just quoting somebody. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I kind of train wrecked a few tracks, and I got called off stage. So I proceeded to practice more. And 2011, I skipped the burn because I had some family things I wanted to do. So I decided that not that year. But 2012, I came back with a vengeance. I had a set
Boom.
ready. I was so ready to go. 2012, I did a thing for myself. Actually, this is an interesting life tidbit that I think is useful. I did a thing for myself where just I stopped dating because it was like a big time and money suck for me, and I wanted to do some nonprofit work that I was becoming. I was taking over as president of an organization in the Bay Area. I wanted to do well at my job. I wanted to take care of my health a little bit. I wanted to do my first half marathon. I wanted to DJ at Burning Man. Something had to go. So I stopped dating, and I was just like, got to focus on myself. I'm going to be a better version of myself the following year in 2013. So that was my goal. So I spent a lot of my time in 2012 practicing. In 2012, my proud moment came when I got to drop my set. And initially it was a 1 hour slot. It became a 2 hour set because the guy after me didn't show up. So it was like, hey, can you keep going? So I have these pictures of myself DJing from my perspective with the decks. And in front of me was like the man. It was the night of the burn. It was the afternoon of the burn. And it was amazing. My set's up on SoundCloud. And I guess it's one of those check boxes in life that like, yeah, I got the DJ at Burning Man. That was pretty cool. I haven't been back to the playa since. I would love to. I think I might try to have a go at going back on the playa maybe as early as next year or the year after. We'll see. We'll see where life takes me.
Make the decision to come back. Look forward to seeing you out there. I have every intention to
Thank you.
make it most years for that. So yeah, it's a rad place, and it's cool that you got to experience some of those like pretty epic things. You know, like DJ, like being able to play a set as you're like staring at the man. You know, like that's pretty amazing. You know, I've been on an art car. I think just one time where I was like on an art car. You know, behind the DJ, like watching like a big massive, I can't remember what the hell it was, the cone. I think it was maybe this massive cone that was just like getting lit up and on fire. And it's like 50 feet tall. And we're just up on this art car watching this thing burn, having an amazing time. Something very magical and special about that, where you're not going to do that anywhere else. Like, where else are you going to just have this massive effigy that's just going to go up in smoke while you're having these wild cars just like playing loud music across as loud as they want, doing whatever they want? So pretty cool
Yeah.
to have that kind of like permissionless aspect to
Yes.
it, you know? And that's to
Very
me, it's like
refreshing.
very refreshing. And that's a lot of, I've kind of talked about this before, but like how the burn really kind of showed me like how things can work with crypto as well. And having these kind of
Yeah.
permissionless systems.
I think a lot of us walk out of the burn, especially our first burn. I think you probably felt this way because after you go back the second time, it's like, oh, welcome home. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm in here. But when it's the first time, you're like taking it all in and learning. And I think the ability to do what you want, where you want, when you want, with the people you want, doesn't always take a lot of money. Doesn't that
Mm.
happiness,
Hmm.
that recognition, that happiness doesn't have to be in a form of lots of money. That happiness and that sense of freedom can come from just living not just present and in the moment, but doing things that you want with the people you want, on your own terms, wearing what you want, and being able to leave when you don't want to, and no judgment on that. It's like, all right,
Hmm.
well, dude, great. Like, I'm glad I got a chance to spend time with this random person for 5 minutes. That was fun. I learned something. I may never see you again, but cool.
Yeah.
The ability to kind of just let go of yourself and own that and take advantage of that, I think is super refreshing. And I think, yeah, like oftentimes we tend to ask ourselves for way more than that, and it doesn't need to be. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I took away from Burning Man is that. And also, I think also worth mentioning for Burning Man for people that may not have been, the temple burn and the sort of sense of solemn
Hmm.
serenity is beautiful. And I think that is understated, but something that if you're going to the burn for the first time, you should definitely see. Or if you've been up to the burn and you've never seen it, you should most definitely see it. And if you're going to the burn
Yeah.
for the first time, don't skip it.
Yeah, that's a very good point because there are people who just leave after the man burns. They are out of there. They never stick around for Sundays. And Sunday night during the temple burn, that's a very, very different experience. Like during the man burn or any other burn, there's always like music and party and everybody's, dancing and having an awesome time and hooting and hollering. And when the temple burns, like it is complete silence. And all you literally hear the fire crackling, and that is it.
Yeah.
And you'll hear people crying, or some people will like say, hey, I love you, to whoever their loved ones were that had passed or are having trouble or struggling. And it's just a really powerful moment where you can check in with yourself in a different way rather than thinking about it like, oh, we're just here to party, or we're just here to do a bunch of drugs, or going to do this or that. Like, no, there's a lot more to it. Sure, those things can be a part of it, but there's a lot of like introspection and learning about yourself throughout that week. So yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. It's a powerful time during the temple burn. Yeah, as we kind of segue away here from Burning Man and whatnot. Like I said, I do like that we're talking about like permissionlessness, and that's as we start looking at some of these applications that we build on top of, particularly big building on top of Ethereum, and that's like kind of what you've been a part of when you got into like the
Yep.
DeFi side of things too. So not only with NFTs, but like DeFi has been a big part of your life too. Yeah, which I guess like what did you get started on with DeFi, and how did that kind of all fit into your life?
The DeFi journey is a good one. I think I would have to say that so my kind of crypto investing ICO thing, I was in the early investment group syndicate that I learned a lot from. And this syndicate spawned a lot of big funds, some some very unknown billionaires, and I'm just like, wow, really good for that guy. And yeah, so through that, I also met some of the early guys at Compound, and
Mm.
in San Francisco. I remember thinking to myself, and yeah, Robert, definitely a lot of respect for that guy. He's definitely an industry OG. I remember thinking to myself that, dude, this stuff is interesting, but why? Like, you just made supply and borrow. Big deal. Who cares? And then
Mhm.
when I really looked into the vision, it's like, no, 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 no. This thing has the capability to spawn like options and margins and other things. And it's like the foundational piece. That was amazing. So I remember thinking to myself, like, I want to try this. And I tried it and like, wow, interest rate. Oh, and you can see the number tick up as you go. That's amazing. Like, you look at your bank account, like the number on Schwab or Wells Fargo or Chase is not going to just keep ticking up, right? So that's really interesting. In the early days of Compound, it didn't quite go anywhere. And in 2019, while I was still working on Machi X, I was still interested in DeFi. Definitely shout out to Kane and Synthetics over there in like early days of DeFi farming. The Synthetics ETH versus ETH pair, where you could earn SNX tokens. The hitting the button every Wednesday, like an episode of Lost, where like if you don't, something will blow up. I definitely hit buttons every Wednesday for a good, probably 4 years of my life. Like thinking back, that was pretty interesting. And then finally came the opportunity to do something. Like long tail lending became an opportunity in DeFi summer, starting with Yearn, and then the kind of pool one mechanics. Here, put this asset in, put a bunch of DAI in this pool, and earn some Yearn in pool one. Okay, no, make this LP, do that. And so then we started looking at Compound. Could we do something with Compound? And at that time, Machi was like, yeah, let's fork Compound. Let's do something with that. And at the time, I was still working on Machi X, and so I was just like, yeah, sure, maybe I'll kind of advise on some of the stuff. And so then, like, I remember also, maybe not the timeline exactly, like we started launching the market initially for Binance. Binance Smart Chain was
Mhm.
going to go, but then BSC, or back then it was BNB Chain,
Mhm.
and it wasn't ready. So it was EVM chain, and we were saying, okay, well, let's just launch an Ethereum first then. So we launched an Ethereum first, and there were days where like, and we later on did launch on BNB chain. Cream is still there,
Mhm.
but it was like Yam came out of nowhere. I woke up one day. I'm like, yo, Yam, what's this? Oh, now you need these Chainlink tokens. You need BAL. You need Yearn. You need all these DeFi tokens. Like, all right, great. Let's create these markets. People need these tokens. And then so Cream happened, And going back to Robert and Compound, those guys were they reached out. They said, "Hey, look, you guys are using this code, and you need to like attribute it properly." And at the time, I think it was good on Machi to be like, "Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that, but you guys put a lot of work pioneering this thing. Why don't we give you like 25% of the team tokens?" And I thought that was, to be honest, a lot of tokens to give up, but it made sense toward the end. Where like they were like, "Okay, cool, we'll give you advice." So at that time, we were able to I think Cream was able to grow with that. And we're like Cream as the first entry into the long tail part of DeFi. At that time, I think Compound, if I remember correctly, only had the main stable coins and ETH and wrap Bitcoin. And so when Cream went and did all that, it was pretty revolutionary. And then another thing I think is that Cream issued the first LST around the merge.
Yeah.
Cream had 25,000 ETH with as the first LST, and it wasn't Lido. Lido wasn't available. Rocket ETH was still working on their decentralization. So definitely, as the first LST going out, the CRE2 token was very revolutionary. Machi and Andre Cronje talked and ended up merging Cream into Yearn as part of that whole merge fest that I think you were a part of as Sushi. And that was very exciting. And Cream TVL got up to $2 billion at that time, which unfortunately, one big last hack, I think, just took that whole thing down, which was unfortunate, but definitely I learned a lot from it. There was just like, actually thinking about that, like one of the big lessons learned there is just, handling exploits is definitely something that's very challenging. And I feel every time for someone having to deal with this, there were some discussions on Yearn, like, hey, look, this exploit resulted in like $9 million worth of USD or 9 million plus USDC in the multi-sig of Yearn. They ended up kicking it back to the Cream multi-sig. At the time, there was discussion, how do we then compensate the people that lost that money? And there was really two parts. There was the Cream ETH2 part that could get basically rugged back from the exploiter, and then there was the 9 million USDC that Yearn gave to the Cream multisig to compensate those who were hurt. The reasonable direct thing to do is to say, look, we have the 9 million USDC, we have the CRE2, let's use this to distribute back to those that are impacted. And at the time, Andre was in charge of this whole thing, and he said, no, these people knew the risk. We shouldn't compensate them that way. Like, okay. And so it wasn't until when Machi came back to steward the protocol, he made the decision to say, all right, let's take all that back and just compensate the people who lost the money. But before that, the decision was to give away a bunch of Cream tokens to compensate people. And then when Machi came back to steward, that's when the protocol was able to distribute that USDC from Yearn and distribute that CRE2 that was clawed back. And then later on, there were some other distributions. And I think ultimately, the people that were involved and impacted with the exploit were able to be made whole, which I think, thank God. And then after that, recently, DeFi Dollar, it's an interesting experiment, Liquidity V2, decentralized stablecoin. Liquidity V2, I think, is super innovative in what they're doing. But I think the challenge there remains that for the most part, at least as it stands today, people mainly care about stablecoin usage from the standpoint of, can I easily use this stablecoin? Does it hold peg well? Is there a large amount of liquidity to move the stablecoin around? Is it highly liquid? And I think that's why, like TradFi backed stablecoins like Tether USDC and now Frax USD are more favored than decentralized stablecoins. I do admire that Liquidity is sticking to a lot of the values of immutability, the kind of initial original single collateral DAI vision from the early days of MakerDAO, which I still think has its place, but such was the current state. So And rolling all of that DeFi knowledge into true markets, I think is pretty exciting. Taking all DeFi pieces, yeah. So
True, that's true. There's a lot of crossover happening with all of that, with DeFi and where it's kind of leading towards now. So, yeah, with True Markets, like how did that come to life here now? Yeah, with you being kind of at the helm there with a lot of it. Yeah, obviously prediction market. It's on chain, on base. Yeah, what's yeah, as compared to like other prediction markets, I guess like having it on chain. That's kind of an interesting avenue.
so there was a group of builders here in the office that were building, looking at building some kind of sports books thing, to be honest. And on-chain sportsbook, I think there's a big demand, and this was last year. So True Market's been going on for almost a year and a half now.
Mm,
So at the time, I ended up getting connected with Millie, and Millie was talking about this idea, and then it kind of became like, well, hold on, you guys are building this sportsbook thing, and the sportsbook thing you guys are looking at, the infrastructure is fully on chain. So Millie and I definitely jive well. We get along well. We mesh well. We're both ETH maxis. I don't go and badmouth the the soy Lana boys or whatever he calls them, manlets. I don't do that, but I definitely am an ETH maxi at heart. I believe in decentralization, permissionless, the values there, the benefit it brings, the fairness in DeFi, right? I think it makes a lot of sense that it doesn't matter how much you have in DeFi. Like lending markets only care how much collateral you have, not who you
mm,
know, the color of your skin, your religion, none of that. And we wanted to basically put those values, harness, continue to embrace those values and make prediction markets decentralized, autonomous, permissionless. Eventually, we're not there yet. Verifiably fair, and that we definitely saw eye to eye on these values. So definitely, it was a good fit. So we ended up talking with the developers that were building the sportsbook app and just pivoted them. And so Millie brought with him a lot of the background that he had from the synthetics overtime markets, Thales team, when he participated there, and then that's how True Markets came to light. So we've been building True Markets now for a year and a half. Millie has had to take some time off to deal with some personal things. He's starting to work his way back, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I do think that prediction markets, I mean, it looks like gambling, but if you look at a bunch of things under that lens, it looks like gambling. Insurance looks like gambling.
sure. Yeah.
Like the stock market looks like gambling. The housing market looks like gambling. Some collectibles like Beanie Babies look like gambling. Like whatever.
Hmm.
What I think is really cool, though, that's why our tagline, "News powered by Marcus," is that when you have the ability to surface private information publicly, that right there is prediction market. That's what prediction markets can do, and it's super powerful. One thing I think that the industry gets wrong right now is that prediction markets have to be, CFTC regulated for U.S. markets, and all the ex-U.S. markets can be on-chain or off-chain, and so that on-chain, fully on-chain prediction markets have no place in the U.S. prediction market landscape, which I think that is incorrect. I think much the same as a lot of TradFi is moving to, the banks are moving to blockchain rails. I don't see why this shouldn't also happen to prediction markets. I don't see why the CFTC is not going to eventually work on regulatory clarity and or some kind of direction to enable that.
Hmm.
So I think that yeah, prediction markets is definitely very interesting. I think there are a lot of benefits by integrating pieces of DeFi into prediction markets. For example, our collateral that earns with the Yearn Vault. That's
Hmm.
also really powerful. And that the composability allows people to build all kinds of products on top of prediction markets and integrate with it. So super excited about prediction markets, definitely. Then I think I'll just stop there for that.
When you talk about the composability too, like I think we just haven't really explored that space yet. Prediction markets are super hot. Everybody's talking about them. We're seeing, even like Polymarket and Kalshi and just like how big they have been, and just even seeing them on like South Park. They're making it on South Park. They're making it on like on
Yeah.
regular news and whatnot. Like these things are mainstream. And yes, you brought up a really good point because most people I talk to now, they're just like, oh, that's just gambling. It's just gambling. I'm like, well, sure, you can participate in it to be, if you want to think like, hey, I can make money at this. Or this can be ways where when I speak with other people now, especially when I speak to like financial people, or people that are working on like financial products and solutions outside of crypto. And when I talk to them about prediction markets, they're like, well, hang on a sec here. Okay, we've got, when I think about hedging or market or like weather markets or talking about energy markets, I actually was just speaking to a guy about this the other day where he was like, yeah, energy markets, like that's a very big, like there's a lot of trading happening on that. So these sorts of things can start happening on chain in a permissionless way,
Yes.
24/7. That's like there's something here. Now we haven't seen that like really come to fruition yet with like the prediction markets as the backbone, but suddenly you can start selling these products could be built on top, like you're talking about this composability where you can actually because this is on chain and it's like an LP position, or you can literally move these assets around. You can do those sort. You can like make products on top of it and issue them, sell them, however you like, package them up and deliver them the way you want to. So I think there's some
For sure.
fascinating things that can come with this yet that we're just we're kind of blinded by this whole gambling aspect. But the other side of it too is like just come look at it for signal. Just come, I
Yes.
ask people now, like how many people have just gone to a prediction market to just see like, well, what is going to happen here? Like today we're seeing because it was the FOMC here earlier today, and okay, like just before it's going to happen, it's like 25 bips is trading at 97%. Okay, we pretty clear that like there's no surprises here, and so whether that's news that's coming from whether that information is coming from internally, too closely internally to, JPOW, or whether it's just literally that's how people feel and that is true sentiment, it doesn't matter what it is. Like that's giving you the signal beforehand so that you can start making some adjustments instead of like, well, we don't really know. We don't have it. Here's some signal. Here's some, because other people know they have closer insight to it. So there's that information slowly kind of aggregates towards those kind of signals. So I think it's better. It's like it's
Yeah.
far more transparent. We're able to
For
see, we're
sure.
able to get more. Maybe transparent's not the right word, but the signal is being able to be distilled throughout these mechanisms.
Yeah, I think the signal is sharper because I remember this week paying attention to this event, and I forget. I think there's a Fed Watch tool that's quoted this thing at 87%. As early as like as recently as like yesterday morning or something like that, and that was on Reuters. So if Reuters and Fed Watch is at 87%, but for whatever reason, Polymarket is at 97, 98%, it just seems like the signal's better. We definitely saw that with the presidential election in
Absolutely.
2024, where Polymark called it early, and the polls, which who surprisingly, not surprisingly, the biggest customers of polls are a news agency. So why would they tell you it's 70-30?
Hmm.
So like that's super powerful, which is why I think that the commonly not understood or not seen thing here is that prediction markets, especially on-chain prediction markets, where it's composable, like true markets using Uniswap v4 pools, this is where, as a whole system, the true markets protocol and things like it, that's the newest piece of DeFi Lego, because we haven't had any new
Hmm.
pieces of DeFi Lego
Hmm.
recently, since like 2020, 2021. Oh man, I guess maybe you're not like yield bases. I think yield bases deserves a mention here.
Sure. Yeah.
What they're doing to combat impermanent loss, Michael and team at yield bases, that's pretty incredible. But other than that, I don't think there's been a lot of new DeFi innovations recently. And yeah, I think prediction market is definitely the big piece of DeFi Lego, in 2025 that nobody called that.
Yeah, wouldn't have presumed that that was going to be this, like you say, new DeFi Lego in this. But it's cool to be like thinking about these kind of composable things. And I remember that DeFi Lego concept. I really liked that. Like, how do we pile all these things together? And like we're putting all these things on chain and bringing this protocol can come with that protocol. How do we? All this stuff was like super fascinating to watch and see it happen in real time.
Definitely.
And now, yeah, this new innovative piece here. Anything else here you want to share with people or whatnot? You've had a wild amount of wisdom here,
Oh,
throughout your
thanks.
journey and everything here. So
I think that the work experience and just simply being alive longer has given me more,
that's
more, more, more. I picked up more XP just by being alive longer. And yeah, I think it's funny. Sometimes I talk to these crypto founders and the people I work with, very bright people. Sometimes I
Hmm.
call them kids
Hmm.
because they are kids to me. I've been working longer than you've been alive, son, kind of. But I definitely, no offense to the folks working at that age. It's just in a way I'm kind of guilty and feeling a bit like, dude, man, I wish I was that smart and driven at your age. So,
Hmm.
but definitely, having seen a lot of life itself is interesting. I think our crypto sector hasn't been very kind, or isn't very kind, or isn't structured to be very kind to people with families. So I do have kids,
Hmm.
and it's challenging to do the traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, people are expected to what, like, starting with like East Denver, and travel to like Singapore, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, uh, Seoul,
Yeah.
Tokyo, Hong Kong, like New York, whatever, and just keep going. Never see your family. I guess if you don't have a family, it doesn't matter. But even if you have like dogs and cats and pets and friends and neighbors and people that care about you, it's brutal. So I think it's important to kind of focus your time on things that matter. Even in conferences, like, you don't have to go to all of them. Like, it's the same people that show up to all of them anyway. So you might as well
That's
just
true.
go to like a few of them,
Yeah.
right? Look for the places where you jive with best. If you want to talk to a bunch of investors, go to the investor heavy ones like Consensus.
Hmm.
If you don't, then just like go to like ETH Denver if you like the builder ones. So
Hmm.
yeah. Um, Sorry, like, I'm just getting on the call. We're gonna have to cut this
No
part
problem.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot. Okay. So yeah, and then we think about other things too. Is like, um, I think it's also important too, like, to think about how, like, what do you want out of life, right? I think a lot of people in our industry are chasing these large numbers, and I think much like the casino, right? Back in the day when the slot machines used to, just when you win and you hear the clink, 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 like, it's not like that now, but and the coins actually come out of the slot machine, you walk through the casino floor, all you hear are people winning all around you. And the truth is, a lot of people lose. And when they lose, they hang their head and they silently walk out. They're not going to be like, yeah, I lost all my money. Now I'm going to
Hmm.
leave and go home and feel like a loser. No, they lose and they leave quietly. And then crypto Twitter is toxic in that same way. All you see are people, posting their wins, or worse yet, like doctoring wins that don't exist.
Hmm.
But there are a lot of people out there who been hit hard, and you should, the 10-10 thing is real. Like, give them some, show them some empathy. And there are people that luckily made some bag that they could be comfortable with. But I think a piece of life advice here to think about is, hey, look, you need to be happy with what you have. You need to identify these moments in life and things that you care about, and adjust. So it's not just about getting to the next million or 10 million or 100 million or billion or what. It's about kind of figuring out what's important to you, what you want, and how can you afford that lifestyle in a way that makes sense for you. You and I both could agree, like, dude, the joy of just picking up a dirty, beat up playa bike that's worth like $50, if that, riding through the playa, sleeping in a tent, eating like packaged food that's probably not the healthiest for you. That's great. That's fun, and that doesn't cost a lot of money. So not everything's about like, one Lambo or whatever it is. Like, be happy and understand what it takes to be happy. And if you are lucky and you're happy with, like, $3 chuck, and you don't need the premium steaks and wines, then great, congrats, you've made it. You can retire. You can, again, just like Burning Man, spend time with people you want to spend time with, dress in the way you want, and work on things you want to. Um, take care of your body, take care of your health. But by that same token, like, that doesn't mean that you just hang out and do nothing. I think there's a phenomenon here in Asia with the youth they call lay flat, or tang ping, which is like, kind of like, what I'm gonna do isn't gonna be impactful. I don't make enough money. I'll never be able to buy a home. I'm just gonna lay at home and, in my opinion, be a loser and just not do anything. So when I think that people should think about being happy and finding happiness through things that satisfy them, having enough money to do these things, I don't mean like just be accepting of mediocrity. I mean, find your own greatness in the things you care about. Work with the best people you know, and spend the time with surgical precision, and not go to all the conferences because everybody's going to these conferences, and not going to every party because it shows up on Luma or on some party list sheet. Like, be focused with your time, pick the things that matter, and don't do the things that don't matter. I find myself recently happier focusing on my health with the cycling. You know, have strong, high VO2 max per Peter Attia in the Outlive book. Like, these things matter. These are the shortcuts that people talk about. But I think, as I'm thinking about this, one other interesting life advice is that life advice starts to sound the same. And sometimes it's like, yeah, dude, I've heard a bunch of stuff before. The problem with that, and the reason that is, I feel the same way, is because if you haven't tried it, or if you haven't encountered these situations, you don't know that they're useful. But keep these things in mind, because you should try them, or that in a time when you do need these pieces of advice, they'll kind of make sense to you when life hits you that way. So yeah, and I definitely think it's important to be grateful. Like, I am grateful for having been around all these fantastic people I build with, including yourself, Tangled, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just like all the things you learn, and be open to learning, and be open to, when you fail, yeah, I mean, give yourself some time to be sad about it, I guess. But try to think about at what point you come out, and don't let that define yourself, as one of the builders I talked to recently said about a recent exploit handling. Don't let that define yourself. Be your best self. Pick yourself back up. Learn something when you fail. Keep going. Be happy. Live long and prosper.
Amazing. Well, I think that's fantastic advice for everybody, and probably a great place for us to wrap that up, with that real high note on keeping things very positive and having a great outlook on life. So thank you so much for everything that you've brought out here today. And yeah, really glad that you could join, be on here today. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you or wants to learn more about you, yeah, where your X handle is.
Yep, Lumberg. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to follow the things I've been working on, or my random thoughts. Feel free to yeah, ping me there. I think life is a big journey. I'm still learning, and I'm looking forward to learning more from everybody around me.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Thank you very much, Lumberg, for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon, man. Ciao.
Thank
Ciao,
you.
everybody.